Sometimes a presidency changes more than just policy. It changes the very fabric of a nation. In the last 24 hours, a series of dramatic announcements from the White House has Washington insiders scrambling, global markets shifting, and America's enemies deeply concerned. What President Trump just set in motion goes far beyond typical executive actions, and the implications reach into every American household, every factory floor, and straight into the heart of our national security. The establishment tried desperately to prevent this from happening, and by the end of this report, you'll understand exactly why and what it means for America's future. Now, I do have an important news alert. Okay, this is the hard truth. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. That means a $100,000 savings account today could feel like $50,000 by year 31. By 2031. Now, you see it every time you fill up your tank, you buy groceries or pay the bills, prices are up, your dollar's down, but there's a simple way to protect your savings with something real, something proven. Gold, an asset that holds its value over time. That's why I trust Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to protect your savings with physical gold or silver. No high-pressure sales, just honest guidance and simple pricing. When you open a qualified account, Noble Gold sends you a free silver flag bar. Visit Next News Gold today, and you'll find the link in the description, as well as the phone number, 877-646-5347. All right, now let's get into it. A couple hours ago, the Canadian Prime Minister, the one who is destined to finally destroy Canada once and for all, Mark J. Carney, was welcomed by President Trump to the White House, of course. Maybe they're having discussions about becoming the 51st state. I do doubt that, though. But we have to take a look at this as well. This is from Amuse. 80% of Canada's refined fuel comes from America. Few Canadians realize that their nation is almost entirely dependent on U.S. gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. In fact, 80% refined oil products for domestic consumption in Canada come from America. So they have absolutely zero leverage. So let's get into some of the topics we're going to be running through in this. This is some footage from the Oval Office when the two met just a few hours ago, talking about the Houthis. And this is President Trump.
We had some very good news last night. The Houthis have announced that they are not, or they've announced to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight. And we will honor that. And we will stop the bombings. And they have capitulated, but more importantly, we will take their word. They say they will not be blowing up ships anymore. And that's what the purpose of what we were doing. So that's just news. We just found out about that. So I think that's very, very positive. They were knocking out a lot of ships going, as you know, sailing beautifully down the various seas. It wasn't just the canal. It was a lot of other places. And I will accept their word, and we are going to stop the bombing of the Houthis. Effective immediately.
We'll see if they stay true to their word. But we've got this, a truth bomb in the Oval Office. Zero Hedge just asked Trump. They were in the pool. That was really cool to get that pool report and see Zero Hedge's name right there. They asked Trump who really blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Yes, not CNN, not the New York Times, Zero Hedge, who was banned under the last administration, walked into the Oval Office and asked one question the mainstream media never would. Let's listen.
This question for a long first, I just want to thank you for letting us in here. I'm with Zero Hedge, and the last administration banned us on social media, so we're really grateful to be in the White House. And this is not exactly sports related, but I've been dying to ask you this question for a long time, which is that 2.5 years ago, the Nord Stream pipeline blew up. Yeah. And despite what people like John Brennan and all the hawks said, you were one person who said Russia probably did not blow up its own pipeline.
If you can believe, they said Russia blew it up, yeah.
And so I'm wondering, now that you're president, if you would consider launching a formal investigation into what happened there and who actually did blow it up.
Well, probably if I asked certain people, I'd be able to tell you without having to waste a lot of money on an investigation. But I think a lot of people know who blew it up. But I was the one that blew it up originally because I wouldn't let it be built. And then when Biden got in, he allowed it to be built. And it's very interesting. But I think Russia, with the price of oil right now, oil's gone down. I think we're in a good position to settle. They want to settle. Ukraine wants to settle. If I weren't president, nobody would be settling.
So President Trump not going to waste time in any investigations, just got to pick up the phone and ask a few people to get to the bottom of the Nord Stream disaster. And hats off to Zero Hedge for asking that question and being in the Oval. We got this from Rapid Response. This is Donald Trump post Truth Social talking about the movie industry in America. It's dying, very fast death. Other countries offering all sorts of incentives to draw filmmakers and studios away from the U.S. Hollywood and many other areas within the U.S. are being devastated. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. I don't know if it's a national security threat. I don't think Hollywood taking incentive to go to other countries, not necessarily a national security threat. So I think you may be a little off on that, Mr. President. But he continues, as it is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I'm authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again. I'm not sure how that would look. How do you, like, if a movie is transmitted into the country? That will be interesting. Here is President Trump outside Marine One weighing in on that very topic. Let's listen.
A lot of them. The movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movies, the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week. And we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in. And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. I mean, they're supporting them financially. So that's sort of a threat to our country in a sense. And it's been a very popular thing. I can tell you one thing, movie makers love it. The movie tariffs, what they've done is...
Okay, so President Trump weighing in on that. Here's more from the president giving a commencement address talking about borders. They're not racist, despite what the media tells you.
It helps when you know that borders are not racist, speech is not violence, America is good, terrorists are bad. Men can never become women. Police are not criminals, and criminals are not victims. It helps when you know that.
Yeah, that's just called common sense. And here we have Jeremy Hunt talking about President Trump owning the moment.
These moments. There's no one who owns the moment like President Trump. I mean, I don't know if Mark Carney thought he was going to own the cameras better than President Trump, but you should know by now that he knows how to manage these moments and to project strength. There's no one who owns the moment.
And Canada does not do very well at projecting strength. He's, of course, talking about the meeting today in the Oval Office. Here's President Trump again in the Oval Office with the Canadian Prime Minister talking about California and Gavin Newsom.
That train is in California, a little train going from San Francisco to Los Angeles that's being run by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Did you ever hear of Gavin Newsom? He has got, that train is the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. It's like totally out of control. So then they said, all right, we won't go into San Francisco. We'll stop 25 miles short. And we won't go into Los Angeles. We'll stop 25 miles short. It's hundreds of billions of dollars for this stupid project that should have never been built. And then they realized that it would have been a lot less costly if we just gave limousine service back and forth and gave it free. They would have saved hundreds of billions of dollars. They have airplanes that go there for one 1/100th the cost. And they have cars. They have a thing called the highway that goes back and forth. It's not fully utilized. And they got involved with this project. And Gavin, you know, I always liked Gavin. I had a good relationship with him. I just got him a lot of water. You know, I sent in people to open up that water because he refused to do it. And we just got him a lot of water. If they would have had that water, and if they would have done what I said to do, they wouldn't have had the fires in Los Angeles. Those fires would have been put out very quickly. But if you think about it, and you got to take a look at this, it's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. I've watched a lot of stupid people build a lot of stupid things, but that's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen, what's happening between San Francisco and Los Angeles. And you ought to ask about that, because this government is not going to pay. I told our very great new Secretary of Transportation, he's doing a good job, Sean Duffy, I said, we're not going to pay for that thing. They are just, it's out of control in California.
And that's California for you, though. And President Trump knows it, calling him out. And let's go over to the Department of Defense. Here is the Secretary of Defense talking about restoring the warrior ethos just a few hours ago.
The warrior. But then the president, after he said that, went on to say, I need you and I want you to restore the warrior ethos in our military, full stop. And that's been my first priority since day one, is restoring the warrior ethos. It's one of the most fundamental of those three objectives. Again, humans, more important than hardware. Everything starts and ends with warriors from training to the battlefield. We are leaving wokeness and weakness behind.
And it's about time we did that. Here we have President Trump on Meet the Press talking about how he wants to treat people fairly, whether they voted for him or not.
Try to make sure
I want to treat people fairly, whether they voted for me or not. I want to have a unified country. It's very hard because the media is so fake, including, like, even the way you ask questions. Every question is asked in a negative vein. There's a toy company that took a toddler's, whatever, but you don't talk about the fact that gasoline is down at numbers that nobody believes possible. You know why they're down, by the way? Drill, baby, drill. We're drilling like crazy right now.
We try to make sure every question is fair, Mr. President.
Look, every question you ask says a very negative slant.
No, but look, I'm just curious.
I'm fine for responding to you. I don't think you're very difficult at all to respond to be honest with you. But you know what? You should ask some positive things. I want to treat people fairly.
Yeah, but that's the fake news. That's what they do best, is spin with loaded questions. Continuing on with the same interview, here's the president talking about how he just wants to be great.
Physical. I want to be a great president. I will have served. Hopefully, everything will go well. I feel very good. I just did a physical. I took, unlike all other presidents, I took cognitive tests and I aced it. I got 100% correct. And one doctor said, there were numerous doctors watching. And he said, I've never seen that before. Biden didn't take a cognitive. He couldn't have gotten the first question right. But I came out great with the physical, both physically and mentally. And I just want to do a great job. I'll be an 8-year president. I'll be a 2-term president. I always thought that was very important, to be honest with you. You know, if you look at President Polk, he was a 1-termer and he did some great things, actually. A pretty good president. And I'm not saying you can't do that, but there's something about being a 2-term president that was very important to me. I want to be a great president.
Well, of course, he gets to actually execute on his vision more so than, it's always the first term. They're testing the waters, and second term they turn up the heat, and we're certainly seeing the heat turned up in this first 100 days. Here we have the president confirming what he's going to do with his salary, like he did in the first term.
They told me no other president, they say, with the possible exception of George Washington, and they haven't been able to find those records. And we've had wealthy presidents before, but no other president has contributed the salary. And they told me before this that you will probably be asking me whether or not I'm going to contribute my salary again, but you haven't asked that.
Are you going to?
Yes.
You are? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, I appreciate.
Did you catch that? He had to load her with a question, because you're not going to ask that. And then she has to, she leans into it because she has to, because, otherwise she looks stupid. But she looks stupid anyway. Here we have Stephen A. Smith, Democrat, says he's happy that Trump won. Why?
Could sell it to. When I'm abhorring or lamenting the state of affairs within the Democratic Party, I'm basically talking about what they were focusing on. They may be doing things on the state and local level and may deserve an abundance of credit for it, but that's not the message that we were receiving. And you know why we weren't receiving that message? Because they didn't think they could sell it to us. They didn't think that that would be good enough. They wanted to make sure, we're going to point to racism. We're going to guilt you into voting for us. We're not going to talk about the things that we're doing positively. We're going to talk about what the other side is doing negatively to engage in fear-mongering to help you, through fear factor, go our way instead of theirs. And it didn't work this time. And to be quite honest with you, even though I might not like some of the things I'm seeing from the Trump administration thus far, the bottom line is I'm glad it didn't work, because I think for the longest time, black Americans have played the role of suckers to the Democratic Party. They've guilted us into voting for them, making us feel as if we're going to be ostracized, creating division within our own communities or what have you to get our vote, instead of saying to us, hey, this is what we will do for you, and it will work better than what they're offering.
Oh, that's a fact. The Democrats just take the black vote for granted, but they are leaving the Democrat plantation in droves. Here we have Carly Bone talking about the Pulitzer Prize-winning photo. Doug Miles, New York Times. You know, I was in the White House press room, and I didn't actually meet him, but I was talking with some cameramen, and they pointed out, like, hey, that guy right there, he's the guy that took this picture. You know, it's amazing when you're there and you get to be surrounded by so many people who have witnessed history. Let's listen.
Mills awarded. So breaking right now, New York Times photographer Doug Mills awarded the Pulitzer Prize for the stunning images he took in Butler, Pennsylvania, the assassination attempt on President Trump, July 13, 2024. We remember this incredible image of the bullet whizzing by the president after grazing his ear. There were a lot of stunning images from that day, but that one has just been awarded the Pulitzer Prize.
Amazing. Pulitzer Prize winning photograph there. We will never forget that day. I know you will never forget either. Here's more from Stephen A. Smith talking about Democrats, all Dems and liberals, what they must do to make deals with Trump is show him basic respect.
Whether you're an elected politician or you're somebody that's going to have to do business with him, you're going to have to recognize you're going to have to appease him to some degree. You're going to have to do that. I've been critical of him for years. But he was nice on News Nation. You know why? I said, good evening, Mr. President. Good to talk to you. Something as simple as that. Remember when he was at the NABJ, National Association for Black Journalists, over the summer? And Rachel Scott did a phenomenal job interviewing. She asked the right questions. She asked the questions that people wanted to know. But what did Trump say? That's just a nasty, nasty question. You didn't even say hello. How are you?
You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you?
See what I'm saying? You don't even say.
Disrespect right out the gate. But you're seeing appeasement in the form of Democrats turning to Trump. I mean, even look at Gretchen Whitmer. She was in the Oval Office just recently. Here we have more. Bataya Ungar Sargon hitting the nail on the head, talking about products, making high-quality products in America.
Couple American. You know what this is kind of making me think a lot about is the fact that every rich person I know, their daughter has 2 or 3 dolls, maybe a couple American Girl dolls, 2 or 3 expensive, nice dolls, and no crap from China. But if you go into a broke person's house, that floor is littered with broken toys from the dollar store.
So now we're shaming people for
Barbie shaming is the opportunity to make enough money to make the same decisions that every rich person is already making and keeping the cheap toys away from their kids. And the people braying the loudest about this are the people who would never let their kids buy those crappy toys. And it is so offensive to me because when you talk to working class people, they sound just like the president. They would love to be buying high quality stuff for their kids instead of 1,000 cheap things that are going to break immediately because that's what they can afford.
That's the worst.
Okay, that was kind of weird, but I think I get what she's saying. I mean, I've got kids and they've got a bunch of broken toys. They don't last very long. Here we have the recount asking, are we in a constitutional crisis? They asked lawyers who rallied in New York City against Trump. Let's listen.
This administration.
We asked a group of lawyers, are we in a constitutional crisis? And this is what they had to say.
Yes, we are.
Yes. Still remains to be seen how severe.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We are definitely in a constitutional crisis.
It certainly feels that way.
What does a constitutional crisis mean to you?
That the executive branch is trying to overtake and control the other branches of government. And this administration has no respect for that, which is the backbone of the Constitution.
How do we get out of a constitutional crisis?
It's going to require a lot more activism from people than maybe what they're used to. Mainly right now, it requires the courts to really stand up and do what's right, and for the Supreme Court to do their job.
Trump has been attacking judges in the judicial branch, saying that they are overreaching their power and taking away his power. Checks and balances have been in our system for more than 250 years. Does the judicial branch have more power, as he says?
We have 3 co-equal branches of government. Trump is just disregarding that. The fact that people are enabling him to do that is giving him more power. We, as lawyers, the judiciary, we need to stand up and take back the power and let people know that it's 3 co-equal branches. No one man has the power.
We asked a group of lawyers.
Sure. How much lawfare have we seen from the judicial branch? Okay, there's no constitutional crisis occurring at all in this country. It's all manufactured. These people are hallucinating. Let's keep going. Speaking of protests, here we have Rachel Maddow. What's she saying on MSNBC?
Back of semi-trucks and soldiers, and you guessed it, tanks. It is still unclear if those tanks will be rolling or stationary or on the back of semi-trucks, maybe, but the whole spectacle is set for the 250th anniversary of the founding of the U.S. Army, which also happens to be the president's own birthday, June 14th. And if that news makes you want to be somewhere, anywhere else, take heart. Something else is happening that day. At more than 100 locations around the country thus far, I have a feeling there's going to be more than that. A coalition of groups, including Indivisible and Social Security Works and 5051, they are all organizing a nationwide day of protest for June 14th. They're calling it No King's Day. As they put it on their website, quote, Donald Trump wants tanks in the street and a made-for-TV display of dominance for his birthday, a spectacle meant to look like strength. But real power isn't staged in Washington. It rises up everywhere else. Joining us now is Ezra
Yeah,
Levin.
we did rise up, actually, Rachel, and we elected a president to fix the mess that Joe Biden left behind, and you aided and abetted in his crimes. So that's where we stand there. Here we have Christina Karolina, an American ballet dancer wrongfully detained in Russia for 14 months, has now returned home. Listen. Oh, wait. Where'd it go? Here she is.
So,
what's your message to the president?
Mr. Trump, I'm so grateful for you to bring me home and for American government. And I never felt more blessed to be American. And I'm so happy to get home. Thank you.
Welcome home.
Thank you so much.
What's your message?
Yeah, I'm sure Joe Biden would have fumbled that deal. Here we have another instance where President Trump saving an American abroad. Keith Siegel, an American held hostage by Hamas for 484 days, was freed in February, and he spoke at, looks like a commencement address as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President Trump. I'm here and I'm alive. President Trump, you saved my life.
And those are just 2 lives you saw affected, but there are so many others. Here's another one. Mark Fogle, an American teacher wrongfully detained in a Russian prison for years. He also returned home in February.
In this at all. I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now. And I want you to know that I am not a hero in this at all. And President Trump is a hero.
He certainly is a hero to so many Americans, not just those 3. And of course, we're going to keeping track of all these wins every single day. So let's just be clear about what we've witnessed. President Trump isn't just changing policies. He's fundamentally transforming how America operates. The restoration of common sense values, the return of American manufacturing, the accountability in government, it's all connected. And here's the question nobody in the mainstream media dares to ask. If these policies are so successful now, why weren't they implemented decades ago? I mean, think about that. Why did previous administrations choose globalism over American prosperity? And who was profiting? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And speaking of excellence, have you seen our Next News merch shop? Make sure you check it out. It's linked down below. The products are flying off the shelves faster than mainstream media can spin their latest narratives. So tap the link in the description and secure yours while you can.